Hello everybody, this is TipTopMTG here today with another Magic the Gathering video. In today's video, we are going to be looking at Spiral Remastered and the top 10 most expensive time-shifted cards. So for those of you who don't know, this video is focused around time-shifted cards, and what those are essentially modern cards that did not appear in the original Time Spiral Planar Chaos or Future set, which are the sets that make up Time Spiral Remastered. So the cards didn't appear in those sets, and they are appearing in this one in a special slot with the old, retro frame. So while the rest of the set is in the modern Magic frame, there is one slot that is going to have the old frame, and it looks pretty cool, and I know a lot of people are really excited about it. So last Friday, I did a video just talking about the top 10 most expensive cards in the set. In today's video, again, we're talking just about those time-shifted cards. And a couple things before we jump into this. First up, we don't really know what distribution of Time Spiral is going to look like, and so these prices are all going to change, and that's true of all of my top 10 videos. If you're not watching this fairly close to when it releases, there's a chance that things have changed drastically. In addition, these cards, the prices you're going to see are going to be in USD, and they are going to be Card Kingdom's prices. So I'm sure you can find them for cheaper, but I just like to use that as a benchmark across all of my videos. So yeah, we're going to talk about the top 10 most expensive cards that are time-shifted in Time Spiral Remastered. So why don't we jump right into this? Starting off at number 10, we have Arcades the Strategist. He is a 4-cost legendary creature Elder Dragon 3/5 with flying and vigilance, and it says, whenever a creature with Defender enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. And then it also says, each creature you control with Defender assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power, and can attack as though it didn't have Defender. So this is a really popular commander because it's very clear what you're going to do with it. You are going to put this with a bunch of Defenders, you're going to draw a bunch of cards, you're going to get really big, cheap creatures, and it's a really fun archetype. I think what boosted a little bit more is that it is a legendary creature. I feel like, and if you've seen my spoiler videos, I talked about this, the fact that, if you're going to go upgrade one of your cards to look nice, though, if that card can be guaranteed to show up in every single game, you're going to be more likely to upgrade it, and so I think that's contributing to it. I also think the fact that it's an Elder Dragon, and, Arcades had his version back when the original Elder Dragons were printed, and he's getting in this kind of treatment again, I think that's also contributing to it. So I think it's a pretty cool thing. And I'm not necessarily a big fan of how the artwork meshes with the frame, but clearly people are wanting this card because it's going for about $20. One other thing, I don't know if I mentioned this, when you open up a pack, you are going to get one of these cards. However, each one is the same chance. So you have the same chance of getting Arcades as you do a basic waste in that frame. So keep that in mind, that there is not one of these that is more rare than the other. They should all be equally printed. Next, we have Primeval Titan coming in at $25. This is a 6 cost. I can't apparently add today. 6 cost creature giant with trample, and whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, you may search your library for up to 2 land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. This is an insane card, and as such, it's actually banned in Commander, and even being banned in one of the most popular formats, and then also not being legal in the second most popular format, that being Standard, it's still commanding a pretty high price tag, and that's due to its play in older formats. Where I also think that if a card is more popular in older formats, it's going to do better in this old frame style when you can play it with some legitimately old cards. And so yeah, this one's going for $25. Next, we have Panharmonicon. This powerhouse of a card basically doubles all ETB abilities, and I think the art works really wonderfully with the frame. The coloring of the brown on the edges works really well with that art, and it's a very powerful effect, especially in things like Commander, where you're also going to see some older cards. So I think this works really well from just an artistic standpoint. I think it's a very powerful and popular card, and I think it's going to see a lot of play. So I think that's the main contributing factors to its $25 price tag. Next, we have Abrupt Decay. This one's a really good removal spell, 2-cost Golgari instant, and it can't be countered, and you just destroy target non-land permanent with CMC 3 or less. This was really big in older formats where most things are CMC 3 or less, just because the formats are so quick. They have access to the best cards in all of Magic, and so those are often going to be the cheaper ones, and so this is just a really efficient spell. On top of that, again, the coloring of the frame matches that of the art, works pretty well. The art just generally works well with the frame, and it's a card that is naturally just expensive, and so putting it in an alternate frame is definitely going to raise the price. But then again, this is all before the set has released, so maybe this comes out, and then we realize there's a lot more supply, and maybe this actually drops in price a lot, but there's not much we can really do but wait and see. Next, we have Yagmoth, the Ran Physician, 4 cost, legendary creature, human cleric 2/4 with protection from humans, and you can pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, and put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature and draw a card. And then you can pay black and a black and discard a card to proliferate. So it's a very powerful commander, both as a commander and in other decks. And I think, again, what's helping this is that it is a commander, like we talked about with Arcades, but it's also similar to Arcades, kind of pulling on nostalgia. Yagmoth is a very, very old character. Of course, this is a more modern card, but he is a character that is definitely older, especially in Magic lore. And so I think putting him in that old frame draws a lot of people to want it. I'm honestly kind of surprised we didn't see Urza, Lord High Artificer, from Modern Horizons as well. I thought that could have been kind of cool, but at least we got this. I think it works really well, especially the art. The art is done in like an old Magic kind of way with a little bit of new Magic in it, but I definitely think everything about this card just works really well. Next, we have Kikijiki Mirror Breaker. It's a 5 cost, red legendary creature, Goblin Shaman, 2/2 with haste, and you can tap and create a token that's a copy of target non-legendary creature you control, except it has haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So first off, a very powerful card. It combos with a lot of things, but it's also a legendary creature, again, helping it. And then I think one of the biggest factors here is, first off, Kikijiki is an expensive card, but second off, the fact that this artwork works so well. Again, we're seeing where the color of like Kikijiki matches the border, it tends to make it look better. But it's also drawn in an old Magic style because, first off, this is older art. It's not, none of these cards were ever printed in the original frame, but it definitely looks like a card that could have been, and I think that's why it just works so well. Next, we have Ley Line of the Void. 4 cost, Ley Line. It is an enchantment, and if it would be in your opening hand, instead you can put it on the battlefield, so you can kind of start the game with the effect. And then if a card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile instead. So it's a very powerful effect. It can really hose some matchups. For instance, if your opponent's wanting to combo off using their graveyard, they may not be able to because this went on the battlefield turn 0. It also has the old art, which I think is really helping it here. The dark colors really work well with the frame. And so, yeah, that's why it's going for $40. Now, remember, you have a 1 in 120 chance of pulling this card, and so that doesn't sound like necessarily awful odds, especially because it's not just this card that's expensive. So yeah, you have pretty good odds of pulling a nice card if you buy something like a box of Timeshfited Remastered, and I think that's pretty cool. Next, we have Thoughtseize. It is a 1 cost black sorcery, and it says target player reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. You lose 2 life. So first off, a very powerful card. Second off, the artwork is wonderfully done, and it matches that old Magic style and the frame super duper well. And so yeah, based on the fact that this is already an expensive card, the style matches, it's gonna be pretty expensive, and that's pretty much the key to success here. There are a couple cards that are pretty expensive but the artwork really doesn't match well with the frame, and those aren't necessarily getting into the top 10 list because, obviously this is a collector's product, but it's also a product you want to look good, and so if it's not doing that, then it's not going to see as high a price. And so that's why I am putting such an emphasis on how it looks. Next, also coming in at $60, we have Ponder, 1 cost blue sorcery. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put them back in any order. You may shuffle your library, draw a card. Again, powerful card that sees a lot of play. This one can fit in more decks than even Thoughtseize can, and that's why it is so expensive, even though it isn't necessarily a card that hasn't seen printing. On top of that, the artwork works really well, again, with the matching colors of the frame and the art. And yes, I know it's a blue card, so it has blue-based art, but it's like very, very close in a lot of ways, and so it works really well. And then last, we have Chalice of the Void, also going for $60. So technically, Thoughtseize, Ponder, and Chalice of the Void are all tied for first place. It's X and an X for an artifact, and it enters the battlefield with X charge counters on it. Whenever a player casts a spell with converted mana cost equal to the number of charge counters on Chalice of the Void, counter that spell. So it's a very mean card, but it can do a lot of work. If you know your opponent is playing a deck that is going to want to win with a certain card, let's say Thassa's Oracle, pay 4 mana, put this down, it'll just counter anything that costs 4. Very, very powerful effect, and I think that it makes sense. The artwork looks like it's an old Magic card. I think the artifact frame necessarily has some of the most nostalgic like reactions to it with the old card style, so I think that's also contributing. Alright guys, that is going to do it for this video. If you guys want to see the top 10 most expensive cards that aren't the time-shifted ones, so they're in the normal frame and they were originally in either Time Spiral, Planar Chaos, or Future Sight, I did a video covering that last Friday. You guys should check that out as well. I will see you guys in the next video. Subscribe to see more awesome content like this. See you next time.